my name is Stella, and on this channel I talk about all things knitting, crocheting and whatever else creative I come up with. And this week I'm going to start to fix my abandoned projects because I have two right now. One is a pair of socks, my first ever pair of socks that I cast on, and one is a sweater or a pullover, and today I'm going to start with the socks. So this is the state of my project. These are the favorite socks by Kristin, which is a free pattern that comes with a, I think, hour-long video tutorial. And I cast this on, I don't even remember when, but essentially it was one of my first ever knitting projects. I've crocheted for a long time since the pandemic, and then I basically learned a bit more about knitting sometime last year. And I did a self-drafted sweater first, I did a scarf, and at some point after that I must have cast on these socks. And I realized in the process that I don't enjoy knitting socks very much, and I haven't picked up sock knitting at all afterwards. But I never finished my first pair of socks, and it's kind of bothering me, even though it's not a project I enjoy a ton, which has nothing to do with the pattern. I think it's great. It's just I have other issues with them, which I will get to. So I've never picked this back up, and I at least want to finish it because it's truly not that much work to finish a sock. So let's look what's in here. I haven't opened it yet. I know that I finished one sock already and that it wasn't very good, which has to do with why I don't like knitting socks. So this is my finished sock. It does fit me. I tried it on, and I mean, it's my first ever sock that I knitted, so it's truly fine that it's not perfect, but the main issue with it is this. As you might be able to see, there's a little bit of a gap going down all of the length of the sock, and it's the worst, like here, right where the heel is. And the reason for that is that I knitted this sock using magic loop. I never did magic loop before this, and I don't know, I was just new to knitting. I was losing my stitches, it was all complicated. And the second reason was that the needles I was using was like a cheap Amazon interchangeable needle set, and the cable was just not very flexible. It was a very stiff cable, so it had a bit of trouble bending around the edges, so it kept pulling the yarn apart all the time. And for the second sock, which I already started, I switched to a different needle, which I had since acquired, and I actually don't know which size this is. This is a 3mm needle, and this needle is a lot more flexible on the cable, so I think so far it's not really a problem with this gap happening. You can definitely see that there's like something if you pull it apart, but if it's just, you know, a sock and existing in the world, you can't really see that there's a gap in between, which is good. And what I would like to do this week is basically just finish this second sock. Am I in love with this sock or knitting socks in general? No, but you know, I don't want to have this half-finished project laying around. I want to at least say I've knitted one pair of socks, and that's just why I want to get through it. The yarn, actually, do I have a tag for it still? Usually I keep them. It's in there. It's called Super Extra, I remember, by the brand Annell, which I don't know, I've never heard of in any other context. I bought this while I was on a bit of a little trip, and I had this idea that every time you go on a trip, you buy like some sock yarn and you can make a pair of socks to remember your trip, which I thought was cute, but you know, I figured out that I'd like knitting socks, so that never happened. This is the tag. And well, when I bought the yarn, I thought it looked cool. I think you can see better with this skein. I think it looks cool in the skein, but when it's knitted up, I don't really like it. I don't know, maybe I would like it in a different item, but a sock, it looks like a grandpa sock to me, to be honest. I think it will be much more fun now that I actually know how to knit. That might help. I just looked up my little note that I had for knitting this, because at the time when I started to work on this, I didn't know how to read knitting patterns yet, so I didn't look at the written pattern at all. I only looked at the video tutorial, and I took notes while I watched the video tutorial. It took forever. So this is just a very, I mean, it's a written pattern now, just not how you would write a knitting pattern, more like in words describing what's happening, and little drawings of how to do magic loops. Very cute, actually. I did download the written pattern, which seems more reasonable to me at this point in my life. I am going to refer back to this though, because I did write down how many rows I did of what, because I knew I would have to remember that. And what I have to do now is basically just, well, get through a lot of stockinette on this. I'm gonna have to count to see what row I'm even on. I also think my gauge is very different on this sock than on this sock, because I finished this, then I abandoned it for a good time, then I picked it back up with the intent to finish it, I did this, and then I abandoned it again. So we're gonna see how this turns out. It's not gonna be great, but honestly, for like a pair of chill at home socks when the weather gets colder, that's fine by me. And yeah, let's start knitting.
When I was born, I didn't know, and I didn't know what it would take.
So there's two reasons why I don't like knitting socks, and the first one is what you can see here, and that is magic loop. Magic loop is the bane of my existence. I would rather do anything else except magic loop, and I avoid it like the plague. I would rather knit like sweater sleeves flat and attach them later before I will do magic loop. I also don't have double pointed needles, so that's also not really an option. Also because whenever I look at people knit with double pointed needles, it doesn't look fun either. It just looks fiddly and like a ton of going back and forth with a ton of needles. And I guess there's like a bigger problem to me behind all of that, and that is that it just makes me upset when in a project I spend more time turning it around than I spend knitting on it. Also with anything that just has very short rows, like, I don't know, a Sophie scarf, for example, it's like fine in the middle, but the edges just drive me insane. And with magic loop that happens very fast, because, well, I do kind of almost spend more time turning it around than I do spend knitting on it. So it's just not very fun to me. And I mean, the first time I did it, it also produced that little gap, which I think I can avoid now that I'm more experienced, but still. So I just don't like doing that. I actually, for sweater sleeves, I bought these tiny circular needles that are like 23 centimeters long. They come in a bunch of different sizes, and they're not the cheapest, so I'm just getting them as I need them. I have two right now, but I do plan to get more in the future, probably. And that has worked okay for me to knit sweater sleeves in the round, or at least the cuffs. And the second reason why I don't like knitting socks is that I feel like it's a very low reward to have a sock in the end. I don't know, I do wear these like higher socks. How do you call them? I don't know. Not the ankle socks, but the ones that like peek out over your shoe. I do wear those, so it's actually, they are part of my outfit, you can see them, but nobody ever looks at anybody's socks. At least not enough for me to care about knitting them, I guess. I think it might be a cool gift, because people do enjoy knitted socks, but I don't know if I enjoy them very much. I don't know. I just feel like if I'm putting in that much effort, I would much rather make like a top or a sweater or anything else except a sock. I'm also gonna have a lot of leftovers from this because I'm still at my first ball of yarn, and I will run out of it and have to use the second one, so it is good that I got two. But I will definitely have a lot of the second ball left over, so I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I have so many like tiny odd amounts of yarn. I actually learned this week that some people just throw them away. I was shocked to find out about that. I don't know, I was watching like some knitting YouTuber, and she said that she just throws away whatever she has left after her socks. And I don't know how I feel about that, like freeing in one sense, but also I don't know if I would just feel kind of bad. It's not an expensive yarn even, but still, it was like made and I bought it, and I feel like I should use it for something. But yeah, I keep very tiny odd amounts of yarn. But usually so far I've always been able to come up with some kind of project for them. Actually, I remember a few years ago, I was crocheting and I bought a bunch of this green acrylic yarn because at that time I didn't really know different fibers and what they were used for. So I just bought the yarn that had the right color and was the cheapest, which ended up being acrylic most of the time. And I wanted to make a sweater out of it, and I did eventually make a sweater out of it that was hideous and absolutely unwearable, so I got rid of that. But I still had some left over, like here and there, little pieces, and I kept them in my stash for years. I'm talking about tiny amounts that no other sane person would keep. And I actually used them up last winter because my partner bought a car and I made a little plant to go on the rearview mirror. So that was like, I don't know, it just reminded me that whenever I do keep these odd tiny amounts around, I do eventually find something to do with them. But I'd actually love to know how all of you feel about this. Like, how little yarn for you is too little yarn to keep around to maybe make another project out of at some point in your life. Do you, like, if you knit a pair of socks and you have, like, I don't know, 20 grams left over, do you keep it? Do you just throw it out? What do you do with it? I don't know. I think I'll have more than 20 grams left over. Definitely too much for me to throw away. But then on the other hand, I just said I don't really like the way this yarn looks, and it's not enough to really do. Maybe I could make a pair of ankle socks, but I never wear ankle socks. And I don't like making socks, so no point to it. I don't know.
And oh, whoa. And oh, whoa. Takes all that I am.
Okay, it is about an hour later. It's already getting dark outside, but I've realized I've been procrastinating this for way too long because it goes way faster than I thought it would. So I'm done with the leg part, or the part where I just do stockinette. And I can now move on to the heel flap, because this is a heel flap and gusset construction. I can't really say much about it other than I did do it on the first sock. It was doable even as a beginner. I did need a lot of like watching the video back and forth and writing it down for myself and, you know, thinking long and hard, but it was doable and the sock does fit me well, I would say. So I think it works. The pattern says this is suitable for an adventurous beginner, so do with that whatever you will. I would say it's just a good base pattern for a sock. It's like definitely a good pattern to knit your first pair of socks, as I am doing right now. But it's also like if I ever wanted to do some color work or some lace and do some like self-drafting kind of things, I think this might be a pattern I go back to and look at again, just to see like the basic construction of it all, and then I can kind of put in my own little ideas. So I think if you're into that, that would also be a cool idea. I don't know why the ribbing looks shorter on this. I am very confident I did the right amount of rows. I only did 8, which does not look proportional really to the amount of leg that I did, but I remember that I was struggling so much knitting ribbing. It was like so confusing to me. So I just gave up after 8 rows. Anyways, I'm gonna move on to the heel flap, and I think that's just a little square, so let's do a little square.
When I met you, I didn't know. And I didn't know.
Good morning, it is the next day. I just woke up and made myself some coffee, which is right here next to me. And I made quite a bit of progress on my sock last night still. I was in a call and I just chipped away at this slowly. So I think the last time I updated you was when I started doing the heel flap, so back here somewhere. And I can actually show you a little bit more about the construction of the sock now that I'm done the complicated parts. So this is the heel flap. It's reinforced, so you work it in a slip stitch pattern. So you only work it on the back side until it's a rectangle or a square or something. And then I knitted some decreases here for the heel turn and picked up stitches along the side of the sock. So obviously you have the stitches on the top of the foot. This is so difficult to show on the needle. So this is the sock, this is the front side, and you have the stitches that go on the top of the foot here. And then down there you have your heel flap, losing my stitch marker. Down here you knitted your heel flap, which is this part, and then the decreases, which shape this little heel section. So you actually have somewhere to put your heel. And then you pick up the stitches along the side of the sock here. And I did that already. And now I'm gonna have to do decreases, because now obviously that I've picked up the stitches on the side, I have way more stitches than I had in the beginning. So now all I do is I knit across the top of the foot and I do decreases on the bottom of the foot until I hit my stitch count that I started with. And then, as far as I remember, I only go in rounds until I reach my toes, so I'm covering the length of the foot. And then there's some decreases for the toes, and then you just kitchen stitch it shut, and then that's everything. I'm very fast with this. I did not remember sock knitting being like that. I did actually, I will also admit, I did have fun with this part of the heel. I think because it's a little bit more engaging than just knitting stockinette in the round. And I do usually like that. I like when my projects like give me a little bit of something to think about. So that was kind of fun, and also the fact that I could knit it flat and I didn't have to do the stupid magic loop, which I will now return to, and I'm not that excited for. So I guess maybe I will try to knit one more pair of socks at some point with my short needles.
When I met you, I didn't know. And I didn't know what it would take.
So I counted on my last row and I realized that I have a stitch more on this side of my little stitch marker than on this side. I don't know how that happened. I am fairly certain I picked up the same amount of stitches on both sides, but since I picked such a grandpa yarn where you can't see anything and the first sock already looks kind of fucked, I'm just gonna sneak in an extra decrease here and not worry about it any further, because why would I? I'm already doing so many decreases. Who's gonna notice if I do another little decrease? Nobody will know. I will know, and all of you will know, but well, just where do I do the decrease? That's the question. Do I just do 2 back to back? Oh, I could just do like a center decrease, where I decrease 3 stitches instead of 1. I think I'm gonna do that. That seems reasonable.
All that I am.
Also, I would love if somebody could tell me whether holding a lot of yarn can make your hands dry, because this weekend I've been knitting a lot. Like, I already knit a lot usually, but I've been knitting a lot more than usually, like basically the entire day. And I don't like, sometimes my hands get dry in the winter, but like from the outside, and they do feel a little bit dry there, but my hands are dry from the inside, like this little parts of my skin falling off because my hands are so dry. Did that happen from me knitting? I don't know why that happened. I've never had that before. That's weird. I hope that's not from knitting, because I want to knit a lot and I don't want my hands to be dry from the inside.
Now we're here. Now I know. Now I know.
It is a few hours later and I've made quite a bit of progress, so I'm done with the foot of the sock now, and I only have the toe decreases left until I am basically finished. And this was quite a bit of work. It took me a few hours with like longer breaks in between, because it's not the most enjoyable part. It was a lot of magic loop and a lot of just knitting stockinette and around, and I don't know, it's not my favorite thing to do. But I just wanted to get through it. And also, I like this yarn, it's impossible to count my stitches. I can kind of do it now, but I think I had to get used to it, or my eyes had to get used to it, because for this part I've tried on this sock multiple times in between, and every time I thought, no, maybe like 10 more rows and then I'm good, and then I did 10 more and I tried it on again, and then I thought, no, maybe another 10 more. So that happened like 3 times, which was also a little bit frustrating, but I managed to get it to cover my pinky toe, and now I'm gonna do toe decreases, which, as far as I understand my little note that I have from forever ago, that should be 18 more rows, and I'm very confident I can get that done today. I probably shouldn't, considering how I feel, because I've been knitting a lot the last few days, and I have basically just been at my desk and like looking down like this, and I can definitely feel it in my neck and my hands, and just my entire body feels like I need to move. I need to go for a walk and take a bath or something. I did want to go for a walk, but it's very rainy outside. I don't know if you can tell that the sky is very gray. Probably you can. But every time today where I thought, okay, I should take a break and I should go for a walk, I opened my weather app and the rain was half an hour away. But for tonight, my mission is to finish this, because I do not want to be bothered with this sock anymore. I don't want it in the back of my mind. I don't want it in the back of my stash. I don't want it in the back of my Ravelry profile, and I want to feel accomplished.
Now we're here. Now I know.
morning, it is the next day, and I finished my socks last night and I actually blocked them as well. So I did all of my toe decreases, and this is what the sock that I made last night looks like right now. First, about the things that are good. Compared with my first sock, it doesn't have this weird line down the middle where you can see where I did the magic loop. So I definitely figured out how to do that. I honestly can't tell at all where it happened, so that's pretty good. Secondly, I'm just proud that I finished it, so that's also a good thing. Moving on to the things that are not great. Well, you know, when you like start knitting, your tension is usually very tight because you pull on the yarn quite a lot. And I was kind of aware of that, but I didn't know the extent of it, so I don't know how well you can see this, but if I line up the socks, then you can definitely see that the first one I ever did, which is in the front right now, is a lot smaller than the new sock. And actually the first one fits me better. This is a little bit too big, the one I did last night. But I mean, I washed it in warmer water. It didn't really help a ton. I tried to pull them into shape a bit. It didn't really help a ton. But as I already said in this video, I believe my goal with this is not to make the best pair of socks ever. I'm just happy I finished my first pair of socks. However, I've been thinking they do still look like grandpa socks, and maybe I could fix that a little bit by trying some embroidery on the side, like up here. I don't know, just something a little more scrappy looking, more fun looking. And I thought maybe I could do a star, because, you know, I have a star in my logo and my colors are also like blue and red, so I could do like a little red star. And I found a tutorial for it that seems doable. I am not an expert at embroidery or even talented when it comes to embroidery. I tried it like once or twice before, and I mean, I did do it, but it was a horrible process and I hated every second of it. So I thought if I'm already torturing myself by doing magic loop in this video, I could also do some embroidery and figure that out. So I think I'm gonna try to do that, and then I will show you the results. Embroidery part actually went better than I expected, and this is my socks right now. They both have their little red star on them, and it looks very cute, I would say, and definitely changes the vibe of the sock a little bit into something I would wear more. Obviously one is still a lot larger than the other one. I don't know if you have tips for that other than washing the bigger one warm and stretching the smaller one, but this is what they look like. I'm very happy I finished my first ever pair of socks. Would I knit socks again? Maybe. I think if they had something more interesting to them, yes. Not like a vanilla sock pattern like this one. I did like doing the embroidery, and now I'm like happy with the outcome that they have the little stars. So maybe if the sock had some lace or some color work up here, I would consider knitting another pair of socks. I would like to try one pair of socks at least with my shorty needles, so I can try to knit them in the round and see if I like that better. I know that I still don't enjoy knitting with those very much just because it's very fiddly. So I don't know if I'll ever start being a sock knitter and enjoying doing this, but I'm very happy with the outcome, even though it's obviously not perfect, and I will show you some pictures of how it looks like when I wear them in a little bit. So thank you for watching the video until the end. Definitely like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see me make more things. And in the comments you can tell me about your experience with knitting socks and knitting magic loop, and I don't know, any tips and tricks to get this sock to be a little bit smaller. So I will see you next time.
When I was born